Well, we all know who Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is. She's a bit of a communist. She's the representative, U.S. representative, part of the Democratic Party, and we have a British version. If you didn't know, Zara Sultana. She's also a communist, part of the Labour Party in the UK. These two have a lot in common. They were both elected as politicians when they were young. She's 26, Zara, and AOC is currently 30. And they've been around not for long, but they pretend to be experts in politics and culture and economics, everything that you can think of. We have a video from this woman, Zara Sultana, who's the MP for Coventry South, who has decided to talk about nonsense, absolute nonsense, about socialism, about the rich, about refugees, and which is, she's talking about illegal migration, but she says refugees. Let's have a look at this clip and let's review what she has to say.
The enemy of the working class travels by private jet, not migrant dinghy. Migrants don't deprive the public purse of billions of pounds. That's tax dodgers. Migrants don't drive down wages. That's greedy bosses.
Hang on. So she started the video. You will see for the rest of the video, she's going to change the word to refugees. But first, she's saying migrants, at least. And driving down wages. Are you kidding me? We already have evidence that when you bring in low-skilled workers from anywhere in the world, and when there's no supervision, it happens. And the so-called rich and all the billionaires that she's talking about, yes, some of them could be greedy. Some of them might be avoiding tax. It's not the same as dodging tax, obviously. But they're also the same people who create these businesses and jobs for everybody else. Next.
Influence and subvert democracy, that's billionaires. And migrants don't drive down public services, that's the Tory government. In this country...
Okay, public services, are you kidding me again? So if you have mass migration without investing in the, obviously, public services, there will be a burden. There will be problems with whether it's healthcare or obviously education with local schools. What is she talking about?
Are a paycheck away from being homeless. We live in precarious situations where people are exploited by their landlords, by their bosses. And when we see people who are fleeing from their homes, we actually have more in common with them than we think, because that could be us. The difference between us and them is luck. The government treats asylum seekers how they would treat normal people if they could get away with it, and that's something.
There we go, now she's changed it to asylum seekers. And that's the interesting part. Firstly, the whole video is your typical left-wing manipulative sort of a piece, because she's engaging with emotions. She's trying to manipulate people, because she's talking about compassion and empathy. And if you don't, and if you focus on facts, that means you have no empathy. That means you have no emotions or compassion. You don't care about people. That's the biggest problem with people like Sultana. And so now she's talking about asylum seekers. The people who cross the borders, they get into Europe, but whether it's Greece, Turkey, France, or Germany, and they settle there. So that's it. They're now in a safe country. And then they decide to leave those safe countries and come to the UK illegally. She thinks they are still refugees.
Who wouldn't try to find safety and security for their families if they were in the same situation? Like Warson Shire said in her poem, you have to understand that no one puts children in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. And instead of us showing humanity, compassion and solidarity with people, we are looking at them in a very voyeuristic way, where Sky News and the BBC and other journalists are on boats following these people.
Extraordinary morning.
Okay, before we show these clips, again, people like her, people on the left, they show these images and they talk about compassion, so that if you oppose it, that means you're the worst person in the world. But we always say the thing about illegal migration, as opposed to using the actual process, and whether people who are staying in camps with the help of the UN, the UK still takes in refugees and asylum seekers from camps, and there is a legal process. Just do that. Nobody is saying ignore the people who are genuine asylum seekers. They definitely need help, but when you come into the country illegally, you undermine the situation that they're having, and everybody else, because people want to live a proper life with a legal status. Now she's going to rant about the media. Ironically, she's now saying the mainstream media, the BBC and Sky, are on the side of the hard right and against her and her compassion.
Kate, just take a look.
How many of you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 men who are on the dinghy. Where are you from? Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Are you okay? Are you all right?
Rather than centering their stories of persecution, of suffering, and allowing them to tell their experiences of why they need a place of safety. What we see in the media, of course, isn't neutral, and it has shaped public opinion. What that means is that people are more willing to blame our problems, like the fact that our NHS has been absolutely gutted, the fact that our communities haven't been invested in, on migrants, when in fact we should be pointing our fingers directly at a Tory government that holds the...
Okay, there we go. So she's now going to talk about poverty, living standards and public services. And she's going to claim that it's all the Tories' fault because before 2010, everything was perfect. Before 2010, there were no homeless people. Before 2010, we didn't have poverty. And public services were, world class. They weren't, trust me. Whether it was schools or the NHS or anything like that. She's talking nonsense. People like her would bring down our society, our system, our values, just for the sake of the hard left ideology.
Complete utter contempt. We have now entered the worst recession we have ever seen since records began, and at this moment in time we have a government that wants to focus on a small number of refugees who are fleeing to the...
Alright, see, again, she's sorry to interrupt, but it makes no sense. She's saying that we are now going through the worst recession, as if we are the only country. This is because of what China did. This is because of the lockdown decisions that all these Western countries made. Whether it was America, whether it was Germany, or well, Germany did slightly better, they'll survive. But France, UK, Italy, everybody is facing a financial hit equally because it was a very, very special situation. And trust me, even if it was a Labour government, it could have been even worse with the lockdown. They might have had us under lockdown forever. Well, for at least a year.
What that is a clear distraction from us holding the government to account on their catalogue of failures. This government is a government of the 1%, serving the interests of the 1%, and has given tax cuts up to the value of 100 billion by the end of this parliamentary term. This is not a government that is working for ordinary people. The Prime Minister is an Oxford Bullingdon boy. The Chancellor is a private school educated former banker who comes from a family of billionaires. The Conservative Party is backed by 1/3 of UK billionaires.
Okay, I can't believe that she's going to make me defend the cabinet. With all the decisions that I disagree with. Firstly, she's claiming that all the top billionaires are with the Tories, and then she says only 1/3 of billionaires are backing the Tories. So that means 2/3, the majority of billionaires, aren't backing the Tories. And then she says that the Tories are giving tax cuts to the rich businesses. Yeah, she's talking about corporation tax, and which should. Corporation tax is called corporation tax, but it's business tax. It applies to everything, small businesses, medium businesses, and it's not just corporations. They really need to change that word, by the way, because it doesn't really work.
UK have as much wealth as 13 million people. We know that we need to tax the super rich. On results day, we saw 40% of A-level grades nationally downgraded. Private schools saw a far higher increase in A-star to A grades compared to state schools. This is now going to deprive...
Okay, let's talk about schools and exam results. She's now claiming that, yes, well, rightly so, the exam fiasco, the A-levels, were absolutely chaotic in everywhere. That's the whole point. So every authority across this country messed up the A-level results, and then obviously now GCSEs. Now, England is primarily governed by the Tories, the Conservatives. Scotland is governed by the SNP. Wales is governed by the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats. And Northern Ireland is obviously governed by Sinn Féin and DUP and all that lot. So what is she talking about? She's claiming that it was just the Tories across the whole country, the United Kingdom. No, each authority had different parties actually for once, which is kind of funny, and every single party messed it up.
Of working class kids, of their future. This isn't a coincidence when we have 65% of the Tory cabinet having gone to private schools. This is the ruling class looking after its own, scapegoating refugees one day and marking up private school kids the next. We don't have a migrant crisis. What we have is a crisis of empathy, of solidarity, and of leadership rooted in compassion.
Oh, there we go. Compassion. It's coming. But okay, so I agree to an extent with her at the end where she's talking about the cabinets of the Tory party with all the posh boys and private school kids. In reality, I don't care where you came from, what your background was, and especially as a kid, you have no say in where you're going to go to school. Your parents send you wherever they want to send you. On the other hand, the fact that some of the people in the government are out of touch, just like the Blair's government or Brown's government, it's actually because it shows that they're out of touch because they become left wing. Look at the decisions, the policies coming out of this government. They're not your sound economic liberalism or right wing fiscal conservative values. These are statist, very centralized, and to an extent, well, Keynesian, to an extent, socialist policies. She should be happy with this cabinet. They are doing what she and people like her want. But as I said, these are all excuses. They use the language of compassion, which is fake. Fake empathy that they have. It's quite sociopathic from the side of socialists, in order to take control. And everything will change the moment the Labour Party win the next election. If they win the next election, everything will change. They'll bring down the voting age. They will obviously allow foreign nationals to vote, and the same thing that they have done in Wales and other places that they plan to do. This is not, we've been laughing through this video, but it's not a funny matter because this is quite dangerous. That's why we have to expose these people, because the mainstream media don't talk about this, but it's fine because we are the media now. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, become a member. Check out the link in the description, or just go on youtube.com/myotc/join. I'm going to have a big announcement towards the end of the week, probably Friday, about the channel. I've mentioned this a few days now, but Friday I'm going to make you a big announcement about what we're going to do for the foreseeable future. We'll see how it goes. But so make sure to tune in on Friday. I'll see you guys in the next video.